This episode of the Mega Meeple is brought to you by our supporters over at Pod Pledge. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 30. What is it? 8. Yes, 38. Yes, I know what I'm doing. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe. You go to iTunes or find out we're even on Stitcher if you'd like to use that as well. So go ahead and subscribe to those. And if you like what you hear, be sure to spread the word and tell all your friends about us. And give us some 5-star loving and leave us a happy review. Well, this is kind of out of the ordinary. I mean, we like to have fun, like to talk about gaming and gaming topics and experiences. But this is one of those serious episodes. And don't hit that off button yet. Chances, this is one of those things where you can't bury your head in the sand and pretend that this problem doesn't exist. I mean, awareness is one of the first things to do in order to work towards a solution. You have to be aware of the problem before you're able to help solve it. Now, if you listen to our podcast for any significant amount of time, you know that we're not one to shy away from some of the harder subjects. I mean, yeah, everybody likes to talk about games and stuff, but if there's a problem that affects particularly the gaming community and the gaming circles that we all belong to, then we're going to talk about it. We're going to bring it to the surface here. And especially if I don't hear any other podcasts talking about it, then you darn well better believe I'm gonna bring it up. But let's first of all, let's start off on some feedback we had gotten on Facebook. Last week was the question of the week. We talked about ratings or rankings. And that was the topic that I kind of ranted about. And the question of this past week was, how much do rankings influence your game purchases? And we posted that on our Twitter and Facebook, and we didn't get much feedback. We got one person who replied, and thank you, Ivan Ska, on Facebook, that said quite a bit, as it will influence me to try the game. So that's good, at least to try the game. He doesn't specify whether how many of those games that he's tried that he actually purchased as a result of a ranking or review. But thank you so much for giving us your feedback, Ivan. Appreciate it. And if you would like to talk to us, I mean, we're on Twitter, we have YouTube, we have Facebook, Instagram, and all those links are found on the social media page on our website. That's www.themegameeple.com. Just go to the social media page and all the links there. I'm going to go off on a little rant before we have our not one but two guests on this episode. This topic is so important that I thought I'd bring on not one but two very prominent and very special guests on this show to talk about it and have them give us their insight and feedback. But I have a confession to make. I used to be really naive. Not that I was, ignoring something, but it was just one of those things that I just was unaware that such a problem even existed. Back in, I believe, August of last year, and I may have touched upon it briefly on an episode back during that time, but there was an article on Women at Warp website, and it was talking about women gaining foothold or gaining ground in the tabletop industry. And the first thing I thought, it was like, well, okay, cool, but why is this even news? Why is this even a thing? I mean, for as long, I haven't been involved in gaming for not too long. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that's been doing gaming way longer than I have. But 3 or so years that I've been involved in board gaming, women in gaming groups, it was just, it was just a thing. It was something normal. I didn't realize that there could be any other way than that. It was just a norm for me, because I saw this from, at least from the groups that I've associated with and gamed with, that we had both men and women sitting at the gaming table. So my initial thought was, okay, why is this is this so unusual that it garnered an actual news article or a blog talking about it? I mean, doesn't every gaming group have a mixture of both men and women in it? Evidently not. But I had, at that time, I had reached out to a number of prominent women in the gaming industry, and through scheduling and so forth, it was pretty hard to get these ladies on the show where that we were able to have our schedules work out. Everybody was available at the same time, but finally managed to do that. And I'm glad it took so long for that to happen, because since that article came out, I've become aware of some cyberbullying and hate mail and just people attacking women, especially prominent women that are putting out content like videos and podcasts and so forth, where those women have been under attack by people saying, that they're stupid, or whatever the attack may be. Now, initially, I thought, well, these are just trolls. These are just pathetic little kids. They may be adults, but they have mentality of a child, and they're not part of the gaming community. I mean, if you get well known online or well known on the internet enough, it's gonna foster or garner people just attacking you for the hell of it. Because that's what they do. There are some people out there that just they really get off on attacking people on the internet. So when these women that were on YouTube and podcasts and putting blogs out and articles and so forth was getting attacked, I thought, okay, well this is just some troll out there that that's not part of our group, and what could you do? You just ignore them. But we us gamers didn't have to worry about that, because people like that just don't game. They're not interested in gaming, and they're not a part of our gaming circles. Well, then later I saw a board game breakfast on Dice Tower where Tom Vassell basically said, "Hey, look, if you don't like the people on our podcast or on our shows, if you are one of these people, we don't want you here. We don't want you part of our audience. We don't want you following us. Leave. Feel free to leave. And that's when I started thinking, it's like, holy hell, that maybe these attacks are coming from people that they're actually in the gaming community. And I thought, why the hell would they do that? I mean, the whole thing about gaming, and you know, you listen to any podcast or you go to any group, you know, the whole thing is being social, making friends. I mean, gaming is just the catalyst or the mechanism that we use, common interest, to get together and have fun. So these people that are acting like a-holes, it's like, don't they realize that word's going to get around? And sooner or later, people are not going to want to game with them because they're going to have the reputation of being an a-hole or a bigot or a misogynist or, whatever. I mean, that pretty much cuts the whole aspect and purpose of getting together and gaming. So I thought, well, hell, evidently these trolls are not outside the gaming circle. They're a part of this community as well. And at further thought, I thought, okay, well, I could understand that, because as much as the board gaming community and the interest and the hobby has grown, not every single person that comes into the hobby are going to be, 100% upstanding, happy, stable people. So, they're gonna bring, maybe some, they're gonna be different personalities. They're gonna bring different backgrounds and experiences. They're gonna bring different baggage with them. They're gonna bring different issues and stuff with them. There's got to be a way where those things do not tear down the safety and the community and the friendships that we build around the gaming table. And then not much longer after that, my eyes got really wide open when there was a particular person in a gaming group that I was a part of, and I still am, but one of the women in our group was getting inappropriate and unwanted sexual advances from somebody else in the group, and it was brought to the attention of a few other men in the group by this woman about this particular person. One man in our group had a talk with him and said, "Look, this isn't going to fly." And for all intents and purposes, we thought that this person was talked to, and he apologized. He agreed. He said, "I'm sorry. I was drunk that night," and blah blah blah. Whatever. Be kind of cautious, but we'll still have him part of our group. And then it happened a second time. It actually didn't even happen at our gaming group. It happened at it was a social setting. Luckily, it was the same woman. It was the same guy making the same, even more overt sexual advances. And luckily, we had some mutual friends there as well that was able to block this and, serve as a barrier against this man sexual advances and comments to the woman. And at that point, it was like, we had to talk with this person, and basically at this point now, that person is no longer welcome at our gaming groups. Anytime we have a game night or something like that, it's like, okay, who are we going to invite? And it's like, this guy's name doesn't even come up. He's crossed the line twice, and it's like, no 3 strikes and you're out. It's like, okay, we'll tell you crossed the line for once. the first time, and if you do it another time, then you've knowingly and willingly disrespected, our boundaries, and you're out. Simple as that. Because again, it flies right into the face of being safe and having friends and making, the memories we want around the gaming table. We want them to be happy memories. We don't want to have a memory of, somebody making sexual advances and touching one of the women in our group when she's not interested and didn't warrant or invite such an action. I'm not here to say that all men are bad. Okay, we're not. And my two guests today in this episode they didn't do any male bashing. That's not what they're about. When crap like that happens, and it's not one of these things where this only happens to someone else. Yeah, the minute you think that and believe that, you become that other person. You become the someone else that crap happens to, because you don't have your guard up. You're not prepared. And that's the attitude that I think we need to have. Not a attitude of paranoia, but a preparedness. And that's why I wanted this episode to talk about this topic, because, it's, like I said, I used to be naive. So if I was naive and thinking that this stuff doesn't happen at the gaming table or within our gaming circles, then I'm sure that there's other people out there who think the same way. They had the same naive belief that, that just happens to, other people. No, it happens to gamers, and it's done to gamers by other gamers. And that's why I wanted to dedicate this episode to the topic of, misogyny and bigotry and just unwanted sexual advances towards our women gamers, because we need to be aware that does happen, because, well, guess what? It does. Now, that's not to say that every man out there is a pervert, but we do need to keep our guard up. One specific situation, one of the gaming groups that I'm a part of, we were gaming somewhere, and we have both men and women in our gaming group, and all of a sudden this guy comes up and starts a conversation. And we never saw him before. None of us in the gaming group ever saw him at that location before, so we didn't know anything about him. And he was like, "Well, hey, yeah, I'd like to join you guys." So initially, it was there was a twinge of, okay, is this guy cool? Is he cool? Is he or is he? Does he really want to join us to game, or a pervert? Is he a closet axe murderer or something, or rapist or whatever that wants to target one of the women in our group? So, you never know. I mean, you meet a stranger on the street, you don't know whether they're a nice guy or not. So we allowed him to join us at our gaming group, and it turned out the guy was really cool. He wasn't a pervert. He wasn't a rapist. He wasn't an axe murderer. He wasn't a bigot. He was just a really friendly, chatty guy, and he has turned out to be one of the more valuable players in our group. And wow, voila, we just gained a new friend. So not all guys are bad like that. And that's the one thing that I want to stress is, not to be paranoid, but be cautious. Be prepared. Because when a new person comes into a gaming group, you want to invite them. You want them to be a part, invite them into the group. If they're new to games at all, you want to invite them bring them into the hobby. In the back of your mind, yeah, there's an aspect of meeting new people that you need to be aware that not every single person you meet is going to be an upstanding person. But hey, what do I know? I'm not going to talk about women's issues. If you want a bunch of middle-aged, old white men talk about women's issues, you could go to the GOP. We're not going to get it here. So at this point, I think I'm going to turn the podcast over to two women who know about this a hell of a lot more than I do, and they have important and useful things to bring to this topic. And again, the first thing I want to do with this podcast is make people aware that this is a problem. It may not have hit your gaming circle yet, but sooner or later it will. And you need to be aware of that. You need to be prepared for it, and you need to know what to do about it when it happens. And to help me attack that, elephant at the gaming table, we have two very wonderful and prominent women in the gaming industry, and they both were nice enough and gracious enough to be my guest to talk about this topic. So let's get to that interview right now. All right, welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and like I said earlier in the episode, this is one of our more serious episodes, but we're still going to try to have some fun here. But we have two guests this time. We have Mandy Hutchinson from the Dice Tower. You probably saw our videos on to Die For Games. And actually, Mandy, the first time I saw you was the Dice Tower segment Gaming with Colleagues. And then after that, you just kind of popped up everywhere on my feed.
I know. I'm wondering if people are starting to get sick of seeing me. But funny story, I'm actually at my Board Gaming with Colleagues house, and we're doing some gaming today. So good timing.
Sweet. Okay. And our other guest is none other than Brittanie Boe. And you might see her in her new venture called Be Bold Games. How you doing, Brittanie?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And I gotta say, for both of you, particularly for videos, I've just started. I've primarily been doing podcasts, but I'm just past few months started to get some more video content out there. And let me tell you, there's so much magic in editing.
It's so true. It's time consuming as well.
It is. I would get you get a certain thing that you're wanting to do, and you're almost at the end of the take, and it's going well, and then it's like maybe you have one or two sentences left to go, and then the cat meows, or the phone pings that I got emails, and it's like so
yes, I know I have a dog, so it would be the dog barking. I absolutely get it.
So
I have 3 cats and a firehouse behind mine.
Oh my.
I think you take the cake. You win.
Oh.
Yeah, I totally just bought a house without even stopping to think if there was a firehouse next door.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good. But you know
what?
Coordinate. Well, watching your videos, it's like, okay, I know, Brittanie, your enthusiasm and happiness about doing videos and stuff like that just comes through the video of your love of the games. And it's like, when I first talked to her, it's like, how is she always that happy? How can you always be on like that? And then when I started doing videos, I was like, okay, yeah, it's editing. It's gotta be.
It's totally editing.
Maybe only like 10%.
I remember.
Yeah, But anytime I make a really stupid face, I just cover it up with video of the game board because I'm like, wow, that was a really bad face to make on camera. I'm going to cover that up immediately.
I remember I was filming an intro for something, and it was like I forget how many takes I had to do, but the last take I did, it was like okay, I finally did it, and my roommate was there, and he said, "Yeah, Tom, that last take sounded kind of angry. You might want to listen to that before you put that out."
It's like, oh no! And to you probably thought it was fine, right?
Yeah, from me, I was like, "Hey, I got through it." So, but anyway,
that's too funny.
But actually, the impetus behind having you guys on was back in I believe it was August. Women at Warp had a article, and I'll post a link to that on this episode as well. You know, it was August 29th, 2017. Women gained ground in tabletop gaming, and it had Brittanie on there. It had Mandy and Suzanne, and it was like, okay, well, this is definitely a topic because gaming. It seemed like gaming, the stereotype is it's all male dominated. It's all men, and it's almost like a novelty when you see a woman actually gaming. So what are some of the challenges that come with being a woman in gaming? And I'll just throw that out to either one of you, whoever wants to answer first.
So, I mean, and I'm gonna back it up a little bit. So I know for myself, I don't only have to worry about being a woman. Sometimes I actually do have to worry about being a woman and a person of color. And I know that doesn't come up very often, but hey, there it is. I deal with it every day, as in, how I look and who I am. And it has happened before. There are some issues where, you go to gaming events and it happens for me where I'll be playing a game. And it doesn't happen often, but, where I've had people who try to play for me. Because I guess maybe I come off a certain way, or maybe, they don't think I'm too smart, or maybe they don't even know they're doing it. But I have had people play for me. And I'm like, no, I'm quite capable. I've got 3 university degrees. I think my brain's pretty good, So things like that. I think in my case in particular, perhaps that just the way that I am maybe gives off a certain vibe that they think I'm a certain way. And I'm not saying it's all men or all of a certain group, but things like that, maybe perception potentially is a bit of an issue.
Okay. Brittanie, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm also a person of color, but I am white passing, and so that leads to a very different type of experience when it comes to my struggles in that regard. For example, I experienced living in America. I know Mandy lives in Canada. A lot more institutional racism when it came to my success. For example, I had a teacher in high school who failed me out of my PE class, dropping my GPA like 0.4 points because he knew that my mom was quote unquote a racial slur. And so honestly, like that's just one of those things where that has a ripple effect throughout your entire life, right? I got failed out of a PE class 3 times, dropping my GPA from a 3.8 to a 3.4, which had a lifelong impact on me. And because I am white passing, there's a lot of privilege that comes with that. People tend to typically accept me more, but that also means that when they say inappropriate things that might be sexist or insulting as far as race goes, they don't typically acknowledge or realize that I'm Hispanic.
Right.
And so I end up hearing a lot more of the stuff that I probably don't. I've definitely had an experience where I was working at an event and we were playing werewolf and this guy started bluffing about something and I was like, no, you're lying, made a joke. And he like called me the B word. And and I was just playing along, right? I was role playing. It's werewolf.
Right.
And I found that the best way for me to deal with that was to look him straight in the eye, stand up, and leave the table.
Right.
Immediately somebody killed him in werewolf. So
it worked out.
It worked out. But those struggles, they've they've been really jarring because that's not something that you can recover from right out the gate, right? You have this shocking experience. You have to get up and leave at your own event. Like, that's not comfortable. And so I have thought a lot about ways that we can make these events better and exactly who the people are that need to implement these things in order to make it happen.
Right.
Quite honestly, most of the time, these people are people who will sit in the same room as me and won't look me in the eye, but then they'll go online and bash me online.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen to Suzanne, actually. That happened most recently. And I think that's the part that's scary to me. Some of the stuff that Suzanne and I have received through emails or messages, we don't talk about it. Some of it's pretty bad. It's sexist, racist. It's a lot of that. But these are people, sometimes exactly what Brittany was just saying, that will be at an event and you don't know who these people are, but then they'll come and attack you online. And that scares me a little bit.
That's what really, actually it was when Tom Vassell had a segment on his, I guess it was Board Game Breakfast or one of his, and he was basically saying, look, if you want to, if you're to attack the people because you don't like their voice or you don't like their stance or whatever, we don't want you here. And that's when my eyes started open. It's like, okay, this isn't happening from. I mean, the source is not from these people who have nothing to do with gaming. This stuff is coming from within the gaming community.
A lot of, I can't speak for Brittany, but I can guesstimate that she has a very good fan base. I think Suzanne and I also have a good fan base. And it's funny, the amount of positive messages from people who are saying, wow, I didn't fully realize that this was happening until I'd seen it happen to Brittany or to Mandy or to Suzanne. You know what I mean? So in vain with what you're saying.
So one thing that everyone can do, and that's my big emphasis on everything that I write when it comes to how to make the gaming space more inclusive, is things that everyone can do. And the biggest thing that we need to acknowledge is that there's strength in numbers and speak up when you see something. But there are different ways to handle different people and different audiences. So it's important that maybe when someone says something inappropriately, instead of calling them out at the table and making them feel embarrassed or ashamed or insulted in front of the other people, you might ask them to step aside and speak with you privately and have a discussion with them about why their behavior is unacceptable. And, if they refuse to listen, then let them know that they won't be welcome back at the group if they can't respect other people's boundaries, and put an emphasis on consent in your group. And also consider perhaps having a code of conduct. That way everybody at the table knows exactly what they're signing up for. Ask other people before you touch them. Don't make inappropriate sexual jokes, et cetera, et cetera. And while we shouldn't really have to do that, it's actually really important that people running events and people running conventions do this in order to protect the people at their conventions.
Definitely, yes.
Absolutely. And we do that actually when we play games, and it's great because I don't even have to be the first one to say anything. People I play with will automatically, okay, this table, we don't accept this. We don't accept this. These are the rules. We have fun. That's it. And you're always welcome. If you can't follow the rules, gotta go.
Yep.
That's it. And so I love that I have a group or friends or people that I can play with that are like that. I think that's a fantastic point, Brittany.
So what can we do to make it more welcoming for women?
I find that being a part of women exclusive groups helps a lot when it comes to feeling included and feeling like you're surrounded by other women. I'm in a group called World of Women, which is a tabletop gaming focused Discord channel. And that has helped me a lot to feel like I'm not alone. If I need to talk about something, I have somebody to vent to. But the big thing is, for my social, when I have people that are actively harassing me, I don't address them directly. I send the link to somebody else and say, like, hey, could you man-to-man this guy and try to calm him down? And I know that sounds terrible and ridiculous, and I shouldn't have to do that. Yeah. But there are a lot of men out there that are willing to do the work and help us out. And honestly, the biggest thing that I'm trying to do is people that are acting out and yelling at people on the internet are not happy people. And we need to ask ourselves, how can we as a community help them acknowledge their behavior and change it? because they're not going to leave the community, and I don't want to exclude anybody from the community. But if we can help them understand why their behavior is unacceptable, maybe we can help them see the light. And if they can't, then they're going to end up not being welcome at varying places as a result of that.
Yeah, it definitely comes down to education, and it's not just gaming. That's in work life. I mean, it's not like we've experienced these things just within gaming. I mean, for myself, I've had many experiences in other areas of my life, but it always comes down to education. I try not to directly, as Brittanie was speaking, engage with someone. If they're angry, I'm not going to get angry with you. You know, if it helps having a mediator, like someone in between to kind of deal with it, that's another option. If it's going to make the situation better, we try and do it. I know when we have gaming events here, and a lot of the times there are very few women, I always try and make sure I make eye contact whoever's coming in. And it can be anyone that's coming in. Maybe because I used to be a teacher, I always want to make people feel welcome. I know what people think when they see me, because you've got this black girl with either gray hair, purple hair, pink hair, whatever it may be. I wear bright colors. I love pinup fashion. I wear crazy glasses. Yeah, it can be off-putting for some people because they're not used to it. I never want someone to feel like unwelcome or they feel uncomfortable. So I always go out of my way, specifically when I see new gamers or people walking around. I try and make eye contact. Even if I don't wave, have a chat. I hear people saying all the time that they're so shy to, no, if you see me, or if you're in a situation and you know of me or see me, come find me. I will make sure that, either I find a game for you to play, you play with me, whatever. So I know I'm not always going to be there, but that's something that I try and put out to see if I can make people feel comfortable. But I definitely think education is a really good way to get us all on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not good at making eye contact because I'm like very much a social shut-in. I know I'm personable and whatever, but I call myself a charismatic introvert.
That's me too. No, that's me too. Yeah. When I'm off screen doesn't mean I'm a different person, but I need Mandy time, quiet time, alone time.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. You have time to recharge those batteries. It's like, I like people, but I don't like people around me every single waking moment. Yeah.
Right.
So what about things like cyberbullying and hate mail, or things that's like more of an anonymous nature? Do you even do you ignore those things? Do you even respond to those things, or how do you treat stuff like that?
I never. Button. No, go ahead. Sorry, Brittanie, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say the mute button.
Yeah, exactly. I never respond. I don't even entertain it. Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, I hit mute so I don't have to see it and be like subject to emotional trauma or abuse. But at the same time, I don't feel like they even deserve to be acknowledged that they've been blocked. So I just hit the mute button and move on with my life, because at the end of the day, I own my own business now and I've got to make a living. So I have to be doing things all the time. I can't waste my time arguing with somebody on the internet for any reason.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
My time is worth money.
It's so true. Make that money.
Okay. Well, and I'm going to switch gears here, and actually that's a good segue to Brittanie. You have a new thing going on right now called Be Bold Games. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Be Bold Games is a new channel that I'm creating, and it's supposed to be a little bit more focused on inclusion and accessibility and how we're going to help even bridge some of the racial gap in tabletop gaming.
Oh, fantastic. I love that.
Yeah. And, I started in the tabletop industry 4 years ago after quitting my job in the insurance industry. And I have been working on, showing everybody that I'm an influencer and making things happen in any way that I can. But the one thing that I've noticed is that, honestly, there is a huge lack of minorities in our communities. So basically what I'm kind of focused on is how we bridge the racial gap in board gaming, focusing on these three things, which is time, money, and space, and solving for those problems, and a way to be like truly inclusionary, helping make games more accessible to people that maybe don't have the time, money, or space to make tabletop gaming happen. Because at the end of the day, tabletop gaming is very much a luxury, and there's a huge income disparity in the audience. I mean, I look at my YouTube and Twitter analytics, and a large majority of the people who are following me are making well over $70,000 a year.
Wow.
And in America, the average person is making less than 35. So
wow,
that's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, holy moly.
Wow, so that's really cool. That's neat, and that definitely fits in with what we were talking about earlier about making it more accessible to people. So, Mandy, newest thing with on your plate is the podcast that you do with Suzanne.
Yes. And that's been quite the journey, let me tell you. As you know, I started with video. So moving over to the podcast was a really big transition in many ways because I had never done a podcast before. And then we were, on the Dice Tower, which was a big change for a lot of people. So Suzanne and I, and Tom, we've had discussions with him. He's great. So we talk about this to him directly all the time. And we really, really want to focus about making gaming inclusive. Like that's it. I'm like, you look at Suzanne, you look at myself. Suzanne's been doing it a very long time. And, she's also been very vocal about her beliefs in inclusion in gaming. I'm very much an advocate for it as well. So when we started, when we accepted to do the podcast, we did it with conditions that we want to make gaming welcome to everyone, whether you're new, if you're, of a different rate, whatever it may be. And we wanted to provide options. So kind of touching on what Brittanie was talking about, we'll talk about games that, maybe it can work for this type of price point or where you can get them. And we just don't want anyone to feel left out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, I know what it feels like to be left out of something, and I wouldn't want that feeling for someone else. So that's why we tried to make things a bit different. To pull in those different types of people. I mean, I don't know, it's not a lot, I guess, in the bigger scheme of things, but it's something, and it's a contribution that we're trying to do. So.
Oh, definitely. It definitely makes a difference, too. But, well, thank you, both of you, for being on the show. Now, if you don't mind, we started a little, call it the Mega Meeple Rapid Fire Round. Just a little... game that we play with our guests, and just lets our listeners find out a little bit about their personality, and has really nothing to do with gaming, but it's just a little game that we like to play. So I'll mention two things, and you guys could chime in on which one you would prefer. All right.
I think I know Brittanie's answers to all of these, but. Go ahead.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Brittanie, what was yours?
Oh, I said cats.
Oh, cats? Okay. Zombies or vampires?
Oh, vampires.
Neither.
Okay.
I know, I'm weird. I'm afraid of both of them.
No.
Like, actually just afraid of them.
Okay.
I know a lot of people are, so that's valid.
Here we go. All right. Action or comedy?
Ooh, comedy.
Yeah, comedy. I agree.
All right. Beach or the mountains?
Beach.
Beach.
All righty. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Oh, Harry Potter. I gotta
Lord of the Rings.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you, and actually, thanks for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate your time and your input. It means a lot. So, now, if people want to find out more about either of you, where would they go? Brittanie?
My social media channel for Twitter is at Brittanie Boe, and on Instagram and Facebook, I am at BeBoldGames.
Okay. And Mandy, where can people find out more about you?
So you can see me in a couple places. To Die For Games, we have a Facebook page and a YouTube page where we do our videos. We also have a website, www.todieforgames.com. Most people will probably know me from the Dice Tower on the podcast, so thedicetower.com. You can find about all of our episodes there. And social media, I go under the moniker Board Gaming Pinup Girl, and I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. So we'll see you hopefully at one of these conventions. We'll be able to get some selfies together and stuff.
Absolutely.
Make some eye contact and play some games.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mega Meeple. Join us next week as we talk about gaming for couples. And, I know it's a little bit late for Valentine's Day, but, hey, Valentine's Day is in the middle of the week. I know a lot of couples will be celebrating Valentine's Day during the weekend. So our next episode will be about gaming for two or gaming for couples. It'll be good for both you and your spouse or your significant other to play. If you haven't already, go ahead and go to iTunes and subscribe to the Mega Meeple podcast. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star loving and a happy review. It will really help us out. Appreciate it very much. And if you really like the show and you like to support it, you go over to Pod Pledge and donate $1 or so per month. That will really help out with the hosting cost of the website and the podcast. Now, if you are a game designer or you have a Kickstarter and a game that you'd like to talk about and you want to be a guest on our show, you can contact us at megameeple@outlook.com, or you can go to our website, www.themegameeple. Go to our Contact Us page and fill in the fields there, and we will get the notice right away, and we'll arrange having you on the show as a guest to talk about your game. So, thanks again for listening, and we hope that you will join us again next week. Until then, we'll see you at the gaming table.